All right. So now things are going to start to get really interesting for us. And so, chapter five or episode five or whatever, however I'm calling these, this is going to span over quite a few actual videos because there is a lot of wisdom to unpack in this particular set here. But what I want you to understand is that these are going to be much more complex variables than we've dealt with before, right? They are no longer simple variables. And so what I want to do is I want to sort of take us slowly through this. And personally, if I had written a textbook, I probably would have started with lists. I would have gone to tuples. I would have then done sets. And the great climax would have been dictionary. And so, to be honest, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to start with lists first. Then I'm going to talk about tuples or tuples, and then I'm going to go to sets, and then I'm going to go to dictionaries. And I'm certainly not going to do all of them in one video. Not even lists is going to be one video. I will point you guys to some pretty helpful site here, which is in our links here. Where is it right there? W3 Schools Python, and there is a whole thing on lists, and I won't be showing you all of this in any of the videos because this is going to be more of an introduction to the concept of collections, when basically one value isn't enough for one variable. That's what a collection is. It's a collection of values. All right. So in here, you'll definitely recognize there's some stuff in here that I'll be showing, but not all. But before we get into any of that, let's look at this program. I think, by the way, the Python visualizer and I are reconciled now a little bit. We were having lots of problems with it earlier. Now I'm just honestly just typing code straight into this, and hopefully that doesn't cause any issues. I'm still thinking it's probably nothing to do with me bringing code in and out. I think it's probably just the server being overloaded. So maybe 8 o'clock on a Friday morning, that won't be a thing. But anyway, so what I want you to see is, what is this program supposed to be doing? Well, what it does is it calculates 5 work days worth of donut sales, or at least donuts anyway. I guess the bias in this program is that each of these, well, no, actually the donut sales. So that's good enough. Good enough. So Monday donuts, for example, we sold $20 worth. Tuesday, $30 worth, and so on. There is a total here, which is going to be set to 0, and an average, which is going to be a float set to 0.0. These guys are all integers. All right, good deal. Then what happens is that my total gets assigned the summation of all of the weekly sales. This is the continuation character, which allows me to continue my line. That's what that is. And then I take the average donuts is assigned the total donuts divided by 5. And then I got these 2 print statements, which I'm using my new favorite way to format the values. And this one, I'm not entirely sure is the best way to do that, but I'm effectively, I think I'm rounding it. I'm not entirely sure if I'm rounding it, but it could be lopping off the change. But anyway, there you go. Thinking about it, as that's actually a number anyway, I mean, a currency, I don't even know why I'm doing that, because I may as well do that, but just make it 2. Kind of like what I did with the total. All right, so anyway, so I'm going to visualize it. And I'm going to step through this a little bit. And what I'm trying to do here is focus on the memory part, right? I'm assuming that this code isn't going to blow anyone's mind so far at your level now. So in the memory of Python, it's basically grab a little variable. By the way, that's again an identifier. A variable is a type of identifier. So basically grab this identifier, it's a variable, and it's storing 20 in there. And as you start to go through, we can kind of see that it's setting it up very, very nicely. And now it's just about to do the total. It's going to add them all up. So now the total is, it's gone from 0 to 175. The average, which is 0.0, we're about to calculate that. Bang, it's 35. And then the 2 print statements, which are going to show up there, print and print. That's basically a straight sequence run. I've deliberately not used inputs or conversions or any of that kind of stuff. This is meant to be just a straight shot through the code. Understand the code. Pause it if you want. Type it out. Understand it, and then you'll see what's happening in the next bit. So this is obviously hard to maintain. I've got basically 5 variables that are storing the same kind of information here. It's basically storing how many sales that day. Wouldn't it be nice if I could have one variable, and in that variable store 20, 30, 25, 40, and 60 as a list of values. So what I could do is I could have a variable right here, which I'm going to call, it's a list. It's going to be called donut. Probably sales would have been good. And it's going to be assigned, and we're going to see a square bracket. I'm going to go 20, 30, so it's the same values as above, 25, 40, and 60. All right, so let's just run this and see what that actually looks like. So once again, we go through the code. I'm going to shrink it a bit so I can get my navigation buttons. Next, 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 next. Now watch what happens to this variable as it's defined. It's basically got too many values to shove into this single cell. It's created a list of values. All right, it's created a list of values. I'm not using it, by the way, but it's created it. Well, that's pretty darn cool. Notice that what's going on is that inside of this little box is a row of values or list. Each one of them referenced or indexed, or another way we say this sometimes is subscripted. Let's just stick with indexed. It's indexed by 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Interesting. All right, so let's go and see what does that mean. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to put a throwaway debug statement in here. I'm going to go print the list donuts, print the 0 element, comma, list the donuts, print the third, well, it's actually the 4th element. I'll talk about what that means in a minute. Here we go, visualize. So next, 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 next. Here's our list. Boom. Now we got these 2 statements we don't really have to care about. And now we're just about to do the print. And it blew up because I've got list donuts. Oh my goodness, actual error in there. That wasn't super helpful. That's okay. Well, I'm sure the editor will get it. I'm gonna close this. So next. And now I'm about to go print. So we know that list donuts 0 is 20. 0 is 20. We know that list donuts 3 is 40. 3 is 40. So that's basically how the index to these objects go here. So a simple variable, which I'd call a scalar, a simple variable just basically has the value. A more complex variable, some of them come with other stuff. In this case, it comes with an index. So the way I'd kind of read this out loud in my head is I'd say list donuts indexed by 0, list donuts indexed by 3. Now note that this might be your first introduction to the idea that in the computer world, the first number isn't always 1, right? So the first index, the first position isn't always 1. It's going to be 0 in this case. So Monday's donuts is going to be 0. Tuesday's donuts is going to be 1. Wednesday's donuts is going to be 2, and so on. All right, so let's get this program to make a little bit more sense. We're not going to do that. So instead of Monday's donuts, I'm going to take the list here, and we're going to put 0. That is going to be the first number. And then, let me just tell you what, let me just do this right now and get all those over. And then Tuesdays is going to be the first index. So not the first, it's going to be 1. Wednesdays is going to be 2. Thursdays is going to be 3, and the last guy is going to be 4. I'm going to visualize and go, go, go. We will probably never see those guys again. Here's our list, and there's our 2 totals. And then here's our print, which we're hoping to be about 175, and then the average, which of course will be 35. So that's how to index individual ones. All right. One other thing too, by the way, is this thing is bothering me a little bit. When you have a number that pops, okay, well, first of all, get rid of these. We don't need them anymore. So our programs become a bit simpler. We look at this, it's like going, why 5? Why 5? What if I want to add a Saturday's donuts in here? I'm going to have something going bad here. Plus, there's like why 5? I mean, that's a magic number. It's a number that appears out of nowhere. We as a programmer who's reading this afterwards might not know what that is. So why 5? Well, here's the cool part. Objects know stuff about themselves. And one of the things they know is there's a function out there called length. So you've seen some other functions now. You've seen the print function for sure, the absolute function, the type function. Here's another function called length. And all you got to do for length is basically pass in the list or whatever object I'm dealing with. So length, I'm going to pass in donuts. That's going to be 5. Now we won't actually see it, sadly. So I tell you what, I'm going to quickly put a little variable up here so we can see what length actually is, so you can see it. But we're not going to use this variable. All right, I would not want to have a variable that knows the length of a list because lists can change while they are running. So there's no point storing up at the front of this is 5, because in another video, I'm going to show you guys how you can add things to lists, take things from lists, so the length of the list can change. So I wouldn't want to actually define it up at the top here, but I want you guys to see this. So I'm going to go visualize. So here's my list of donuts. It looks like that. Here's X. What is the length of that list? It's 5, right? So now we know that this line should work. So as we go through, we're done. All right. So let's go back and edit the code. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out that useless line. All right. I think that's about as far as I want to go with this. I do want you guys to understand how that's working. This is basic, simple list processing, and it's basically a little bit of this. You can see right here, they've got a list here. In this case, they've got a list of fruit, and they basically say, hey, print number 1. What is number 1 going to be? It's going to be banana. We can try that ourselves and see, but there it is. It's banana, right? So cool. Some of the stuff I don't really want you guys to get into quite yet. We're going to get there, but I don't want to, just for now, really, this one example is a good example for you to think about. Okay, so let's call it a vid on this one. And again, what I really want you guys to do is make sure you can kind of feel comfortable with that code.